I'm Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the Nbld Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NBLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NBLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the Nbld Project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes. Okay, happy Friday. At least it's Friday from where I am, which is on the West Coast. And so a couple things I want to update you on. I should have done this a while ago, but I forgot to share with you that the person who created my new podcast logos that I did earlier this year, his name is Max Klein, and I will want to interview him about the logos in the future when we both have time to do that. But I wanted to give him credit for designing, or at least helping me design, the logo for Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied. And Sleepy Butterfly podcasts, because they are really professional looking and really good. And I'm also having him create 3 new logos for me that I'm going to be doing for 3 other podcasts. Yes, I might be a little crazy. I'm going to have 5 podcasts. Anyways, so that's for the logos. And the other thing is that I also am working on turning this podcast, the one on NLD, into a book. So I'm a little busy right now. So I will be moving the support group that I have for neurodivergence to probably every other month, or at least that when it works with my schedule, because I'm kind of busy with creating 3 new podcasts and transcribing this one into a book. So please bear with me on that. Thank you. And today I am very excited to announce that BetterHelp is now sponsoring this podcast. I have had 7 years of therapy, so I know it can help change your life if you not only let it, but work on the personal goals that you set with your therapist. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better, because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are the greatest asset. And special offering to listeners of Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/, I'll put in the link in the podcast description for you. That's BetterHelp, HELEP. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. I also want to mention to you that I just launched my podcast swag on Wednesday of this week and have a page for it on my website, and I will also send you the link to it in the podcast description, and I will also send it to you in the newsletter that I usually send out on Fridays. I am now selling t-shirts, water bottles, and a backpack, and they all have the podcast logo and title on it and the tagline. So I'm looking forward to watching the sales and seeing who buys them, and spreading the word more about my podcast.
All right, happy Friday. So today I wanted to talk about one of my new podcasts that I'm going to be starting probably in September once I have the logos and the title for it figured out. But I wanted to create a podcast about empowering people to be their own hero in their life. So that one will probably be called Shero, Be Your Own Hero. And what I really want that one to be about is, like I was saying, have people, it's great to have a mentor and a hero that you can look to, like your mom or your father, or maybe it's, somebody outside your family for you. But for me, I've gone through some personal things in my life, many that I've shared with you about on the podcast. The sexual abuse and the con artist experience, and learning from my mistakes with my ex-boyfriend, and dealing with challenges of having to lose weight because of overeating to protect myself from being taken advantage of by men. So those are the challenges I've gone through. And I've realized, with all those different challenges I've experienced, I've really been able to become my own hero figure and my own inspiration in life, which I think is really a good thing, because then you have your own motivation that you can rely on, and your own determination, and that's not always true for people to have. And I want to be able to interview people who have that, who have had similar experiences to me, not just women, but men as well. And starting with ones that we think of heroes in our lives, like firefighters and doctors and nurses. And, for me, I would also think of therapists, or school counselors as well, or social workers, you know, teachers, people out there who are influential for us, but, might also be influential for themselves in some ways that we don't always notice or realize. So that's what that new podcast will be about. And I really hope it will be successful, because I've talked about some of these topics before on my Nbld podcast, and in terms of trying to empower yourself and not give up no matter how discouraged you may get, and being able to really be determined and reach for the stars, and being able to excel in whatever area you're trying to improve in, whether that's social skills or maybe it's an academic area like math or science or history or writing, and really believing in yourself that you can achieve your goals, and being able to be your own cheerleader. Uh, when sometimes it's hard, maybe hard for you to have um, cheerleaders from other areas in your life. And I'm not discounting, having a mentor or a cheerleader outside of yourself. I think that's a good thing too. But what I'm trying to say is that it would be good to have both, because then I know for me, when I was in college and I was doing it in Northern California at Berkeley, and my parents were down in San Diego. It was hard for me to be motivated and feel like I was going to graduate. But what made it easier for me was when I had my mom cheering me on, my brother cheering me on, and my dad as well. They believed that I could do it, and then eventually I started believing it too, and that helped me become my own motivator in my life. And I'm really glad that they were able to do that for me. And to realize that whenever you experience a hardship or in your life where it's difficult for you to get through it because you're depressed, or maybe you experience some things I mentioned earlier in the episode, um, and you feel like you're kind of in a standstill of it being plateau, or just really down, not any more ups and downs, um, like the roller coaster of life usually has. It's it can be challenging to have motivation and being able to uh, keep yourself motivated. But if you believe that somebody else believes in you, that can help you eventually to be able to believe in yourself. And also, a good thing to think about with changes is that you can you have three choices. You can let that change weaken you, destroy you, or strengthen you. And I've always tried to have a change strengthen me, because even if I feel like it, took a lot of changes out of my life, and made it harder for me, you know, it's easier to let destroy or weaken me than it is to strengthen me. It would be easier to do that. But I don't want to let that happen, and I want to be able to um, keep myself motivated and be able to be out there and help other people and help myself with the challenges they have, and with my own challenges. I mean, that's a lot of what I do with the podcast. So I hope that, it's kind of circling back, that I hope that the new podcast about heroism will be successful. And definitely reach out to me if you want to be interviewed for it, or if you know somebody who you think would be interviewed for it. Basically, I would be asking them, okay, tell me about a time in your life where you felt like you were your own hero or your own Shero for females. And they can go as deep into answering that question as they want, um, or as, surface level as they want. Because I know that can be a very personal question for somebody to answer. And um, I want them to be comfortable with answering it. And to be able to share how that time period changed their life, uh, for the better and for the worse, and how, and maybe how it's still changing their lives. Because, for me, even though I've let go of being, of my experiences I mean, sexually abused and from a trauma and exploitation of what go those negative experiences, they still have impact in my life today. And I try to learn from the triggers that I have today, even though of course they're smaller than what I had in the beginning, I still try to learn from them and be able to figure out um, how to, uh, progress along letting go of journey of it and being able to live with, like I was talking about a couple weeks ago, radical acceptance of how your life isn't going to go back to the way it was before that negative experience happened. Um, and being able to realize that and accept it and, be okay with that and still have a life that you love and that you thrive in and that you enjoy living can be challenging at times. And I think that being able to realize that you are capable of being your own inspiration and your own hero and motivator and cheerleader in life is a very powerful thing to realize. And that you don't always have to look for um, those qualities in somebody else. Um, but it is good to have at somebody else that you can look for those qualities because there are times when, excuse me, you won't be able to believe in yourself as much, excuse me, as you want to. And then when you have somebody else who is your cheerleader and your motivator, then you can start to believe in yourself again, like I had that experience in college. So, um, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that podcast, and I'm also looking forward to interviewing people on their experiences and seeing how that progresses. So, I hope you guys have a good Friday and that you got a little bit of tidbit from this episode. All right, bye.
I also want to mention to you that I just launched my podcast swag on Wednesday of this week and have a page for it on my website. And I will also send you the link to it in the podcast description. And I will also send it to you in the newsletter that I usually send out on Fridays. I am now selling t-shirts, water bottles, and a backpack, and they all have the podcast logo and title on it and the tagline. So I'm looking forward to watching the sales and seeing who buys them and spreading the word more about my podcast. And today I am very excited to announce that BetterHelp is now sponsoring this podcast. I have had 7 years of therapy, so I know it can help change your life if you not only let it, but work on the personal goals that you set with your therapist. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are the greatest asset. And special offering to listeners of Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/, I'll put in the link in the podcast description for you. That's BetterHelp, HELEP. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. As I wrap up, there are some things I would like to share with you. I do have a website for this podcast. It is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page for this podcast. It is called Living with NLD. I will include the links for those in the description. In conclusion, I would like to hear from my audience. If you know individuals with NLD that I could interview for this podcast, please email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com. What are you interested in learning about NLD? I know I'm not an expert, but I do know I have the living experience of having it. I would like you to practice journaling about your gifts and differences. Also see if there is a way that you can make that difference become easier for you to do than originally it was. Thank you for listening today, and please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Thank you. Bye.